The silence between us. Alex had always been a man who kept his emotions tightly locked away. After all, he had learned the hard way that opening up only led to heartbreak. 2 years ago, his world had been shattered when Sheena, the love of his life, had betrayed him. Sheena had been everything to him, his first love, his best friend, his future. But when she cheated on him, it felt like the ground had been ripped out from beneath him. Even though their breakup was filled with anger and hurt, deep down, all Alex wanted was for Sheena to come back to him. But Sheena had moved on, leaving Alex to drown in the memories of what they once had. For 2 years, Alex lived in a haze of sorrow, unable to let go of the past. He buried himself in work, avoided friends, and kept his heart firmly closed off. But then, one day, in the most unexpected way, he met Anna. They met online, a random encounter that quickly turned into a friendship. Anna was everything Alex wasn't: bubbly, talkative, and full of life. She was the kind of person who could brighten up the darkest days with just a smile or a kind word. She had a habit of sending silly memes and gifs, always finding a way to make Alex laugh, even when he didn't want to. She became his last message at night and the first one he looked for in the morning. They talked about everything: life, dreams, fears, and for the first time in a long while, Alex found comfort in someone other than Sheena. Anna knew about Sheena from the beginning. Alex was honest with her about his past, about how he was still hung up on a woman who no longer wanted him. But Anna didn't mind. She was confident that they were just friends, nothing more. She enjoyed their conversations, the way they could talk for hours about anything and everything. And though she knew Alex's heart still belonged to someone else, she couldn't help but fall for him. It happened gradually. 5 months of talking every day, of sharing their lives, of being there for each other in ways no one else had been. Anna noticed the way her heart skipped a beat whenever Alex's name popped up on her screen, the way her day brightened just from hearing his voice. She tried to push the feelings away, reminding herself that Alex was still in love with Sheena, but it was no use. She was in too deep. One evening as they were chatting, Alex mentioned Sheena again. He talked about how much he missed her, how he wished she would take him back. Anna felt a pang of sadness, but she pushed it down, offering him the same comforting words she always did. But that night, after they said goodnight, she couldn't hold it in any longer. She realized she was in love with Alex, and it broke her heart to know he would never feel the same. Anna tried to keep things the same, to continue being the supportive friend he needed. But her feelings were too strong, and eventually they began to show. She started to send more affectionate messages, hinted at her feelings in small, subtle ways. Alex noticed the change, and it annoyed him. He didn't want to deal with someone else's feelings. He was still too wrapped up in his own pain. One day, in a moment of frustration, he reminded Anna that he was still in love with Sheena, and that he had no room in his heart for anyone else. The words hit Anna like a blow, but she didn't let it stop her. She loved Alex too much to just walk away. She continued to send him good morning messages and good night texts, and asked him how his days were, even though his replies became shorter and less frequent. She could tell he was pulling away, but she couldn't bring herself to let go. Then one day, Anna decided to take a leap of faith. She showed up at Alex's doorstep, a bouquet of sunflowers in her hands. Sunflowers were her favorite. They reminded her of happiness and warmth, things she wanted to share with Alex. She wore a simple dress, her hair pulled back, and a smile on her face despite the nervousness gnawing at her insides. She hoped that seeing her in person, seeing how much she cared, might change his mind. When Alex opened the door and saw Anna standing there, he was surprised. He hadn't expected to see her in person, especially not with flowers, but instead of feeling touched, he felt irritated. Her persistence, her refusal to take a hint, grated on him. "What are you doing here, Anna?" he asked, his tone sharper than he intended. "I just wanted to see you," Anna replied, her voice trembling slightly as she handed him the bouquet. "I thought maybe we could talk." Alex took the flowers, glancing at them briefly before turning his gaze back to Anna. Her hopeful smile, the way she looked at him with so much love, it only made him angrier. He didn't want her love. He didn't want her hope. He just wanted to be left alone. Without a word, he turned and walked to the kitchen, tossing the sunflowers into the garbage can. Anna's heart sank as she watched the bright yellow petals disappear from view. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them back, refusing to cry. "Why can't you just leave me alone, Anna?" Alex shouted, his voice echoing in the small apartment. "I will never love you. Don't you get that? I don't want you and I never will. Just go away." Anna stood there, frozen, her heart shattering into 1,000 pieces. She had known this was a possibility, that Alex might never see her the way she saw him, but hearing it out loud, seeing the anger in his eyes, was more than she could bear. Her hands trembled and her voice quivered as she spoke. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry for loving you. I thought maybe, it doesn't matter now. I'll leave you alone, Alex. You won't hear from me again, I promise." With that, she turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing in the hallway. Alex watched her go, something inside him twisting painfully, but he ignored it. He told himself it was better this way, that he was just protecting himself from more heartache, that he loves no one and wants no one except Sheena. Days passed, and for the first time in months, there were no good morning messages, no silly gifts, no late-night conversations. The silence that followed was deafening. At first, Alex felt relieved, but as the days stretched into weeks, he began to feel the emptiness that Anna's absence left behind. He found himself checking his phone more than usual, hoping to see her name pop up, but it never did. The realization that he had driven away the one person who had been there for him, who had loved him unconditionally, hit him harder than he expected. One evening, after weeks of silence, Alex decided to reach out. He wanted to apologize, to make things right. He missed her. The way she made him laugh, the way she cared, the way she was always there. But when he called, there was no answer. He sent a text, but it went unread. Days passed, and still no response. Panic began to set in as he realized he had no idea where Anna was, how to find her. Desperate, he reached out to mutual friends, but no one had heard from Anna. Finally, he managed to track down one of her close friends, who reluctantly told him the truth. "Anna's been sick, Alex," she said quietly. "Really sick. She didn't want anyone to know, especially you. She moved away to be closer to her family to rest." The news hit Alex like a freight train. All the anger, all the irritation he had felt toward her, vanished in an instant, replaced by overwhelming guilt and regret. How could he have been so blind, so selfish? He had pushed her away, hurt her, and now she was gone, and there was nothing he could do to make it right. Without hesitation, Alex drove to the address her friend had given him. It was a small house in the countryside, far from the city. When he arrived, his heart pounded in his chest as he knocked on the door. A woman answered, her eyes filled with sadness when she saw him. "You must be Alex," she said softly. "Anna's been waiting for you." She led him to a small room at the back of the house. Anna was lying in bed, her once vibrant face pale and frail, but when she saw Alex, she smiled, a weak, tired smile that still held the warmth he remembered. "Hey you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex rushed to her side, tears streaming down his face as he took her hand in his. "Anna, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I was a fool. I didn't realize how much you meant to me." Anna squeezed his hand weakly, her eyes filled with love. "It's okay, Alex. I never stopped loving you. I didn't want to burden you." "You were never a burden," Alex choked out. "I was the one who didn't see what was right in front of me. I was so caught up in the past that I didn't realize the future was standing right in front of me. I love you, Anna. I love you so much." Anna's eyes filled with tears, and she smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face despite the pain. "I love you too, Alex. I always have." For a moment, they simply held each other's gaze, the room filled with the weight of everything that had been unsaid for so long. Alex felt a profound sorrow, knowing that he had wasted so much time that could have been spent loving Anna the way she deserved. But he pushed those thoughts away, focusing instead on the present, on the precious moments they had left together. From that day on, Alex devoted himself entirely to Anna. He stayed by her side, holding her hand through the good days and the bad, trying to bring some joy into her life, even as her strength waned. He read her favorite books aloud, played her favorite songs, and shared memories that made her laugh, a soft sound that was like music to his ears. One evening, as they sat together in the fading light, Alex looked at Anna with a mix of love and desperation. Anna, he began, his voice trembling slightly, I know we don't have much time left, but I want you to know that you're the only person I've ever truly loved. I know it's too late to give you the life you deserved, but I want to give you one thing, if you'll let me. Anna looked at him, her eyes filled with curiosity. What is it, Alex? Marry me, he said softly, his heart pounding in his chest. I know it's not official and we don't need anyone else here, but I want to be your husband, even if just for a little while. I want to promise you that my heart belongs to you, now and forever. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes as she nodded, a smile breaking through her exhaustion. I'd love that, Alex, she whispered. They decided to have their own private ceremony, just the two of them, in the room where they had spent so many precious moments together. Alex found a simple ring that had once belonged to his grandmother, and he slipped it onto Anna's finger as they exchanged vows. With the soft glow of a single candle illuminating their faces, they held hands and looked into each other's eyes. I, Alex, take you, Anna, to be my wife, Alex began, his voice thick with emotion. I promise to love you, to cherish you, and to keep you in my heart for as long as I live. You've given me more love and joy than I ever deserved, and I promise that I will carry you with me always. Anna's voice trembled as she repeated her vows. I, Anna, take you, Alex, to be my husband. I promise to love you with all my heart, to be with you in spirit, even when I'm gone. You've made my life complete, and I will be yours forever. With those simple, heartfelt words, they sealed their love, not with a kiss but with a tender embrace that spoke of all the emotions they couldn't put into words. In that moment, they were husband and wife, bound not by law, but by the deep, unbreakable bond they had finally acknowledged. They spent the rest of the evening in each other's arms, cherishing the quiet intimacy of their shared vow. For a brief time, the pain and sadness faded, replaced by the warmth of the love they had finally allowed themselves to feel. As the days passed, Anna's condition worsened. Each morning, Alex would wake up with a heavy heart, knowing that their time was slipping away. He tried to stay strong for her, but every moment felt like a countdown to the inevitable. The thought of losing her, just when he had finally realized how much he loved her, was unbearable. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the room, Anna's breathing grew shallow. Alex held her close, his heart breaking as he watched the life slowly fade from her eyes. I love you, Anna, he whispered, his voice choked with tears. I love you so much. Please don't leave me. Anna's hand trembled as she reached up to touch his face, her eyes filled with a profound tenderness. I'll always be with you, Alex, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Even when I'm gone, I'll be in your heart just like you're in mine. With those final words, Anna took her last breath, her hand slipping from his as she drifted away. Alex clung to her, his tears soaking her hair as he whispered broken apologies, his heart shattering into a million pieces. After the funeral, Alex couldn't bring himself to leave the small house where they had spent Anna's last days. The city that had once been his whole world now felt cold and empty, a place filled with memories of a life he no longer wanted. He stayed in the house, surrounding himself with the remnants of her life, the sunflowers she loved, the books she had read, the little trinkets that had once brought her joy. Every corner of the house was filled with her presence, and though it brought him comfort, it also deepened his sorrow. The days turned into weeks, then months, and eventually years. Alex never moved on. He couldn't. His heart belonged to Anna, and no one else could ever take her place. He lived a quiet, solitary life, his only solace the memories of the brief time they had shared. He would visit her grave every day, talking to her as if she were still there, telling her about his day, about the things he wished they could have done together. People in the village pitied him, the man who had loved too late, who had lost the one person who had meant everything to him. But Alex didn't care about their pity. His life was a testament to the love he had found too late, a love that had come to define him, even in its sorrow. In the end, Alex never remarried, never sought the company of another. His heart remained with Anna, in the quiet village where she had spent her last days, and when he finally passed away, he was buried beside her, in the same spot where the sun would always shine down on them, together at last. Their story became a poignant memory in the village, a tale of love discovered too late, and of a man who spent the rest of his life mourning the woman he loved, but had not appreciated until it was too late. And though it was a story filled with sorrow, it was also one of deep, enduring love, the kind that lingers long after the people who lived it are gone.